noise!
Welcome back to the next part of this Truth and Rhythm episode. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. Also become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you so much for your interest and support. Enjoy. Hey, before we get started with today's show, I just want to draw your attention to new merchandise. Funkin' Stuff and Truth and Rhythm designs are in, and they look pretty darn cool. So show your support, help support the program, and show off some stylish merchandise and apparel. Only at the Funkin' Stuff store. You know, Sly covered so many genres, like you were talking about, Jerry, but he is certainly highly regarded, especially as being one of the fathers of funk music.
Yeah.
What, in your mind, did he bring to that genre and help push it to new levels, new areas, new frontiers?
Well, by showing people that he could write music that was likable to anybody and everybody. It wasn't like he never like sat down and said, I'm gonna write me a soul song right now. I'm gonna write me some funk. You know, he just was funky. And whatever he did was gonna be that. And he loved the Beatles. He loved all kind of the English bands. So his concept was not, and he loved James Brown and Ray Charles, and they loved him. So he had so many loves of music in his life that he reflected that. And nobody's ever done that since, and I don't know if anybody ever will. He was one of a kind, and society kind of got to him a little bit, along with the Hollywood crowd, you know. I don't want to mention anything, but they got to him, you know, and a lot of people just came there later on just to see him be messed up. Because people were jealous. They go, nah, it's going to be fucked up, man. And that used to break my heart, because you're looking at a person that was one of the biggest major influence on music ever, besides the Beatles and besides other bands. People wanted to see him be messed up, and it was heartbreaking for us.
I'm sure. I can't imagine how heartbreaking it must have been.
Yeah, I moved to Hawaii. In 1980. I still kept in touch. I came back for a few things. I came back for that thing with Bill Graham. It started out good, and then he saw this dealer gun inside before the second show. And Buddy Miles was playing guitar on that. Greg was playing drums. It wasn't all the originals, but we were doing good. It was an HBO thing. And I was in Hawaii. I flew there and enjoyed it.
What year was that, Jerry, about?
It was before we got inducted in the Hall of Fame in 93. So it had to be about 80 something, you know.
When Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself came, I mean, that is just such a seminal, timeless, classic funk track, kind of revolutionary in its sound. What was your thought process when you first heard that coming together?
I said, here we go again on the positive side, you know. When he wrote that, because he hardly ever wrote things that are all just in the same key, you know, except like David A. People, and that he did that to please a record company too, because they were such dodos. They didn't know shit about music, you know. They just had their formulas. They had to do it this way, and that's what broke his heart and his spirit also. It was not the people's choice. It was a choice of the corporate America who did that. And something was happening back then that could never happen now. You could never have a manager that was a vice president of a major conglomerate. David Kaperlik was our manager. He was also vice president of Epic Records, under Columbia. And he manages through Daedalus Productions. But he was our manager and everybody knew it. You cannot do that anymore. That's conflict of interest. Dave supported the band with the money that he got from Peaches and Herb. He used to manage them too. And their money that they made supported Sly and Stone in the beginning. I bet you never heard that one before.
No. I didn't follow Peaches and Herb nearly as closely as Sly and the Family Stone. But
they had hits before us. And there was two Peaches. One Peach, she got so messed up, they had to get rid of her and bring in a new Peach.
The Peach got rotten, the first one?
Yeah. She drank herself out of the gig, which a lot of us do. I've always liked alcohol more than drugs. That's why. But that's easier to. I have about 5 or 6 drinks a year now. Yeah, I enjoy every one of them now. Yeah. So I married a nurse, and
that's smart. Yeah,
working now, and just in the other room. I'm just sitting in my dining room. You can't see him, but all clean across the wall. I have gold records and my Hall of Fame thing. Picture of Cynthia Robinson and I behind us. Can you see that there?
I can see Sax there, the big picture.
Yeah, that's Cynthia Robinson in my
profile. Yeah, right behind you.
And she was right next to that is the Beatles. I met them when I was playing with George and Teddy in Rome. You see the small one in the middle?
Yes.
Down bottom right is me at 23 years old.
Wow, with the tie and everything.
Yeah. Well, we had to do that. We were playing at Club Otranto Quattro in Rome, and the Beatles walked in, and they were going to get thrown out because they weren't all their grubs and their signature clothes. And then somebody said, "Les Beatles." So they came in, and I got a chance to sit down and talk with them. And they took their picture out in the courtyard with me. It was great because I was a big fan of theirs, and so was Sly, because they were so innovative. I talked to I didn't talk to Paul because he was dancing with a gorgeous hooker out there, just beautiful. But we talked to him later. But I sat down and I said to Ringo, I said, "Hey, my drummer's, he's got your picture up on the wall." He goes, "I don't know what for. He's got a better foot than I do." He was just so humble. And George Harrison just sat there and smiled. And John Lennon, I said, "I never thought I'd ever meet you." He goes, "Well, you never know who you're going to run into." So John Lennon. And it threw me back. I just felt so stupid. But I was in awe because they were the biggest band. That was their biggest year in 1965. It's the year before Sly and the Family Stone started.
Yeah, I'm sure they had a lot of influence on Sly. I mean, in 67, when Sgt. Pepper's came out, I mean, that's really what also helped make albums and art, and not just the singles too,
They were brilliant. When what was the guy's name? George Martin took them under his wing. They became gigantic because they were just guys from Liverpool. It was just a bar band, but they were brilliant. And Ringo wasn't really ever a great drummer. He was a great personality. That's what he said, because my drummer was better than him, than I had in Rome. He goes, "I've done that before. He's got a better foot than I do." They talk in their Cockney accents. It was great.
Chemistry,
Well, I loved Europe. A couple of years ago, I played in Ireland and London, and then when I was on the road with Prince for 3 years, Cynthia and I, with Larry, I played in 15 countries. I just loved it, because I got to stay in the 5-star hotels with him.
I want to ask you a question or two about Prince. Before I do, I want to ask you about Larry Graham because we didn't really talk about him. And he's so innovative too on the bass. So, you know, you had Sly being so innovative. Then you also had Larry in there being sort of revolutionary on bass.
I got
Um,
a text here from him 2 days ago. You know, we talk all the time. Him and I did the Zoom with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame together. I played with him when he was 14 years old, and I was 18 at the Redwood City American Legion Hall with a band called Al Lewis and the Modernistics. He later became Al Rapone, and with his sister, the Queen Ida and the Zydeco band, and they sold millions. But they were just a bar band there. And Larry had to stand behind the curtain and play. And Al used to do the Chuck Berry thing and skid along on his ass across the stage and stuff. And I was 18 now, but I was underage too. I had the worst fake ID you ever see in your life. Said I was 26. I looked like I was 12. Man, a million story. I got a million of them. I also been writing a book for about 40 years, and I just keep adding to it. I got to sit down 1 week. It'll take a week and go through all my memoirs. You know, I don't know.
well, I
I
hope you
probably,
do. I hope you do. Um,
boy, it's being done. I have a book this thick. I just, I just organize it. I want because I want to do a vocal thing. I just want to talk my whole book.
well, but in the band context, though, I mean, how much input did Larry Graham have on how the bass parts would be, especially considering that Sly was so good on bass?
Okay, if you listen to all the Sly and Family Stone songs, uh, Larry didn't do no thumping or anything. Sly wrote the bass line. Sly was the bass player. Larry just played what Sly wanted him to. However, Sly was fully aware how badass that Larry was, you know? He was really good. And but Larry didn't do all this then. He could. That's why when he left the band, he formed his own group and he just went and thumped his ass off. And Cynthia and I went on the road with Larry from '97 to 2000, all over the world with Prince. And that scared the shit out of me because Prince used to have me stand up on that purple piano and take a solo, you know? And when he gets tired of you, he'll like bring Maceo in to kick my ass, you know, and he does stuff like that. I loved him anyway, but same with Candy Dolford. She's a good friend and she played with us. So many great musicians play with Prince and he loves Sly.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely, yeah. I've told the story before on this show, but I saw Grand Central Station play House of Blues in '95, and
Mm-hmm.
great show, great show. And afterwards, I got to talk to Larry, and I said, "Hey, have you met Prince? Because he's like doing all of your songs and all the Sly songs." He's like, "No, I haven't met him." He goes, "But I've kind of heard that." And then the next year they did meet, and then you know the rest, you know. So,
Yeah,
um,
he lived in the guest house next to the garden about a mile away from Paisley Park for a long, long time until right before Prince died.
so having been with the two geniuses, because a lot of people compare and contrast, you know, like Sly and Prince, what were the similarities and where did they diverge?
Okay, Prince, uh, well, Sly was like brilliant, and I think he was the greatest songwriter between the two. But Prince was a close second. But what Prince did, he knew everybody's job. He could come and mix the board. He did the lighting. He did everything. We traveled with uh, 7 semis and 7 buses, 62 people on the road with him.
Wow.
And he treated Larry, Cynthia, and I we were traveling in it with a big bus, and there's about 8 bunks in there. I mean, we had a bunk for my horn and her trumpet, and our own little living room. Larry had the apartment in back with his daughter, like Trace. And so we had our own bus. The girls had their own bus. The Then the band had their bus. So it was great traveling in Europe. We had like 7 buses on the road in Europe. You know, it was amazing.
That's something. When you first got exposed directly with Prince, um, how much did that experience differ from maybe what you previously knew about him or what you anticipated the experience would be like with Prince?
Well, I find with Prince, he treats you like a king until he gets used to you, then he treats you like shit. But that's just the way he was, and I appreciated the time and the respect that he did give me. And then he found out that Sly credited me with starting the band, and then he was like this then, toward the end of playing with him. We played his the last gig when he got the key to Minneapolis. The mayor gave him the key, and I told Cynthia that that's our last road gig. She goes, "No, no, it ain't," but it was. But when he came around town, we came and played with him still. Like when he was in Oakland or anywhere in the Bay Area.
Yeah, he not only liked doing the Sly songs, but a lot of the Graham Central Station songs too.
Oh yeah,
And I have this here even, Jerry, the Graham Central Station record that you were on, right? Do you want to dance?
yeah.
Yeah. Are you on all of this, or just a couple of tracks, or?
Yeah. I just whatever he needed me. I didn't pay attention. I know that. Uh, he did one album that he had me soloing a lot, and it was, and Warner Brothers dropped about 20 bands, and he was one of them. But it did well in Japan. He sent it to Japan, but that whole thing that was a bad time for Larry because unfortunately Larry is really great, but none of his songs are going to be like Sly's or like Prince because they were great and he was great. He didn't write One in a Million, which is a great song, but he. I was playing at a club in Hawaii when he did that, and he came at the Hilton Hawaiian Village. I was playing in Honolulu, and he got up and sang it, holding his daughter when she was a baby, and all the people in the audience would started crying. That's how good he was. Larry had been my friend since he was 14 years old.
Wow, that's something. Um, you know, on your playing, Jerry, how would you describe your style? Is there a signature to how you approach the saxophone?
Absolutely. Just I'm not a jazz player. I don't play a whole lot of notes. I find that less is best. And that way you don't have to practice so much. I just got my own style. I mean, I love the people that influence me, like in the old days, I love Stan Getz, but mostly I like Maceo and and Junior Walker and Sonny Stitt and all those guys. I like the bluesy jazz guys.
Yeah, I love Maceo especially. Had you met him before you worked with Prince?
No, I met him with Prince, but I was a big fan of his, and I was a big fan of James Brown. And there's a lot of just the soulful, more bluesy but jazzy saxophone players I liked. I didn't like a whole lot of notes. I didn't like a lot of the white players because they just played too many notes. Like James Brown said, "Whoa, there's a whole lot of notes in there, man. A whole lot of words." He would say, because James Brown was not quite a great lyricist. He was just the funkiest man alive. We loved him. My band played with him a few years ago in Oakland before he passed. I remember the wife he was married to, she got her own mic and she's back there and she was going to be part of it no matter what. Well, nobody liked her. And the engineer looked at me and said, "She's not on." So she insisted on singing with the band. But she was young and pretty and James liked her. So I got too many stories. On my book, I am not going to tell any of the X-rated shit. I've had, 9 lives and 6 wives,
I'm sure. I can only imagine.
I knew my wife right now, I knew that I met her 22 years ago. We've been married, we've been together 22 years. Before that, my mama always told me, "You keep doing it till you get it right, son." I was born in Shamrock Mines, Colorado, which is a country song I wrote too. And That's where I was born, man. In 1942, and Dad was a minor. I'm playing in Aspen in June. I asked my driver when I played it before, "Where's Shamrock Mines from here?" It's close down. He goes, "As a crow flies, it's 20 miles." So that's where I was born, and I would still be there, or in Colorado. That's where my relatives are. If my dad didn't join the Navy, he was stationed in San Francisco, and it changed my life.
I wanted to mention Fresh because that's one of my favorite Sly albums. And it came at a time when things were starting to kind of splinter with the group. And what do you remember from that period? And how do you think it got pulled together for such a great album amid that chaos?
With Sly?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. He had a knack for that. I think that Andy Newmark played on that, I believe. And is Andy Newmark the drummer? You got the album there?
Yeah, sure.
I think Andy Newmark, drummer Pat Rizzo, took a great saxophone solo, more jazzy. He added that jazz end of the band. I would just play mostly just some blues, the closest I could get to Maceo was not that close, because nobody plays like Maceo to me, See, I'm alive and playing, and I'll be 80 in a year and a half, because I'm looking over my shoulder over here at my beautiful wife, and she's a nurse, and she's kept me going for all these years.
One of the things that surprised me with Fresh when it came out that it was so good was that Larry was gone, but it didn't seem to matter at all. I mean, it was still just such a great record.
Well, I paid the bass on most of that stuff. Even if Rusty was playing, he even overdubbed over Larry's stuff sometimes. And Sly would do shit that nobody knew. He would go in, he'd be playing a lot of albums, he'd be playing guitar, or he'd be, but everybody played. Herbie Hancock played with us, and Miles used to hang out with the band. So it was a diverse organization, and people loved him, and it was a shame to see that the Hollywood people got to him, but you know what? He outlived most of them. Sly is doing fine right now. He looks good. He hasn't done nothing about 8 months. And I've never seen anybody do that before. Keith Richards, too. Keith Richards was on TV, and he goes, "I'm still here."
And, yeah, Sly and George Clinton. I mean, it's so great that these guys are still around.
Really well. George is a friend, and George quit doing everything too. He cut his, he changed his clothes after 30 years, and he was beautiful. But he was very, very talented, and he's a good friend. I love George.
Absolutely.
So I'm here. He loves fun. Sly's daughter, when that fun came, and he just loves. And he loves Cynthia and fun, and Cynthia was right behind me up here. She was my partner for 55 years.
Wow. So,
I don't have a trumpet player in my band now. Larry Graham's keyboard player, who's mine too, Jimmy McKinney, he's got a whole horn section built in there. So I play with a whole horn section, but it's just me and Jimmy. So I'm not going to hire a horn player. Who's going to replace her?
Well, what is it like for you now, Jerry, when with the new lineup, when you're playing those same songs? How is it different, for you?
Well, I'm very picky on who I choose. I finally, after about 3 lead singers, I don't know if I told you, like, all the lead singers I had about 3 or 4. After a while, they develop a thing I call LSD, which is lead singer's disease. And when you're in that position where you're playing Sly, all of a sudden you start getting a size 44 hat, and they forget that I hired them, And the guy I got now, he looks more like Prince. I'm not selling the faces, I'm selling the songs. But he plays 6 instruments. He can do Sly. He can do Larry. He plays the keyboards on the gig. but he stands up. I got 2 keyboard players. Jimmy's like the horns. Jimmy was a horn section for Larry too. He still is. We share him. But Larry's not on the road right now. But he ain't through. He'd probably go back out. In fact, I'm using Larry's drummer in 2 weeks in Indios, California, because my show drummer from Vegas, he has a family wedding situation. He can't go. So I just called Brian, who knows the songs better than him. He's been playing with Larry for years and years, So we all interact.
You're based in Vegas, right?
Was that? No. I'm in Folsom, California, 5 miles from Folsom Prison. I live in an area that is safe. There's a little park across the street. You can't park on the sidewalk overnight. I just want to stay in a safe place for my family. I have about 5 or 6 bedrooms here upstairs, and we only use 2 bedrooms. Unless we have a big family, When they come, we could fit 20 people here.
I wanted to ask and pick your brain for one thing in particular. I saw Sly and the Family Stone play a TV special in the early 70s. I was actually there with my mom because I was a kid, and it was filmed in Hollywood. Al Green was on that show also, and I think Sly wore like his black outfit with the Sly belt, and when he ran off the stage, he came right by me and brushed up against me, and I felt his sweat and everything as a kid, and I never forgot it. It was an amazing experience. But I've not been able to track it down, what that was or anything like that. So I'm just wondering if you happen to remember a TV.
We just played so many, Then in 1980, I moved to Hawaii and he kept doing gigs and stuff. He would go into a club somewhere and he liked the band. He goes, "Y'all Sly and the Family Stone." So on Facebook, people call it, "Well, I played from 1984 to 1985 with Sly and the Family Stone." But that's bullshit. There's only one Sly and the Family Stone, I don't call my band Sly and the Family Stone. Sly gave me permission to use the name The Family Stone. He gave me an affidavit because other people try to do it. It's a jealous world out there, my friend. And I just want to make sure that I have all my T's crossed and my I's dotted.
Well, this would have been like around 1972, and like I said, Al Green was there, and so I don't know if
let me see.
television. It was specifically a television show.
Okay, I'm wondering if Andy Newmark was with us, and Andy Newmark was by far the best drummer that we ever had. Greg was innovative. Everybody loved Greg, but the difference is Greg, since the beginning, when he gets excited, he'll speed up and then he'll slow down and stuff. And when Sly said that's okay, but after Greg quit in 1971, Sly started using a metronome a lot. He's the first person to use that Rhythm King on a record for a Family Affair. First person to use a rhythm machine. And it's on the record for Family Affair. I don't know what we played. We played all over there. We played a Hollywood Bowl. We played, several places in Hollywood.
I guess it'll just stay a mystery. But
yeah.
With your current lineup, do you play something like Family Affair that was so much a Sly-centric type of track?
Oh, yeah. Check out our site. Check out my website, thefamilystoneband.com. And you'll see us, We just played at the Sea Breeze Jazz Festival last week, in Panama City, Florida. You can go on YouTube and you see us on there. I got a good lineup. And we do, what Sly used to do, he would get 3 colors. So I want you to guys wear black with silver, and red, black, and white, and you can add gold and silver. We'd have colors. You see, people didn't know that. And I do the same thing. They'll call and say, what colors we wear? You can wear anything you want. Last week it was red and black. I wear a red top hat and shirt and then black clothes. It's black and white. And we have, in 2 weeks, we're playing at 2 casino gigs. Black and white the first night, black and gold the second night. And we're pretty organized, and I learned a lot from Sly. I don't try to be Sly and Family Stone because there was only one, but I try to represent those songs as good as I can, and we kick ass. You know, the people on the ships love us. We did the Soul Train cruise and the Flower Power cruise, and we got all of them were canceled this year. We're going to play the this year. We're going to do the Soul Train, Flower Power, and the Rock and Romance tours. It's all the same company, but that's what they're very high paying, and I lost a lot of money during this pandemic. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, but very, very glad that you've made it through safely. Most
Yeah,
important thing.
I don't believe in that shit, but I got my shots because you have to, and I can feel that it affects you some kind of way. I didn't get sick. My wife got very sick, but you got to do what you got to do. If that's the law, just follow the law. Whoever's in charge, just follow the law, and you'll get through it fine. You know.
Was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction a proud moment for you? How did that affect you?
Well, we were inducted January 12, 1993, 2 years before they built it. And it was amazing. I was living in Hawaii and I flew back, and absolutely great. I go there all the time. The president comes down, they send a limo for me and my band. We go underneath the Hall of Fame, and they take us to the vault. They give us lunch, and they give us a private tour to see how things have changed. They just remodeled it about a year or two ago, and it's gorgeous.
Wow.
I did a TV thing there when they do educational things there, and three of us were interviewed and things for that movie.
I think some of Sly's later work was unfairly dismissed. I'm thinking of like the album High on You, which I think is a strong album.
Yeah,
Yeah. Did you feel like he wasn't getting the respect at that point that maybe he should have, because he was still?
absolutely. No, the powers that be have treated him like shit his entire life. They killed his spirit in the beginning, and they wouldn't stand behind his genius. They said, you can't have three different lead singers on this. They said they're all different things. You have to stay in one mode. You have to have one hit and then 6 hamburger helpers on an album. That is the formula that all record companies used. It sucked, but that was just how you program your audience. It's all about programming people. I know you know that.
Yeah. Well, that's what's great about the internet today is there's more freedom, but there's also more challenges in distribution and making money off it, you know?
It's all about making money. For the corporation, that is it. You know, everything else will be sacrificed if necessary, you know. Plus, you couldn't do what we did back then. Dave Kaperlik wouldn't have been able to been our manager nowadays because he was the vice president of CBS and for Epic Records. That's called conflict of interest. Got away with a lot of shit in those days, man. But he did it to Barbara Backus and Daedalus Productions, you know. They also had a couple of rock groups, so big, and Peaches and Herb. And
What would be your top 5 desert island albums? If you could only listen to 5 more albums, are there 5 that are just so important to you and you are just indispensable?
first with Sly and Family Stone.
No, not Sly, others.
Others?
Yeah.
Hard for me to say because I'm not crazy about anything new that's come out in the last few years because there's no bridges. They keep it in one key. Everything is electronic. There's hardly any live bands anymore. I listen to it because I like to stay up on pop. I like Ariana Grande. She has a great voice, and I like a lot of the new singers that are out, but the arrangements are, you know, I just go back and I listen to the old pop stations, all the old Motown stuff, and I turn on the pop stations, and the only thing they do the same as the old days is they'll talk for a fucking hour, you know. Then in between stuff, they make their speaking position more important than the music they're playing. which is why they cut out talk radio a lot more. You can't do too much talking. You got to play music. But there's a lot of good bands out there, but I have not heard any Sly and Family Stones. I haven't heard any Beatles. I haven't heard any Stevie Wonder. You know, I was also a big, huge fan of his. We all love Stevie, every one of us. You know, we all love James Brown. And Parliament Funkadelics, we're all the same family, kind of like, you know. My Family Stone band played with George a couple of times. Once in Europe, and we played at Glastonbury. We did this Glastonbury one on stage with him. He came and sat in with us. I've known George for a long time. You know, he's great. I know his kids.
And now grandkids too are doing the band.
Oh yeah, they're in the band.
Yeah.
Second generation.
Jerry, as we look back on everything, what are you most proud of accomplishing in your entire music career?
That's really hard to say. I'm proud of the fact that I've been able to keep going and keep growing as a musician and as a person. When we made it to the top with Sly, that was my most proudest time, you know, because it's something I only dreamt about. I've always dreamt about being a musician since I was a little kid. So consequently, I can't do shit. That's all I do is play music. I can't hammer a nail. My wife can fix things better than me. You know? So just knowing that that's what I was meant to be, I did my first gig in 1944 when I got burnt, and I was at Oakland Naval Hospital, and I went out and sang bell-bottom trousers to about 1,000 troops, you know. And then I played the accordion because Italian mix, I think everybody played the accordion. And I played one of the first TV shows in San Francisco. I played St. Louis Blues on the accordion. So that's all I've ever done, play music.
So you never had any doubt that music would be your career in your life?
I never had any choice. It was in me. That's why I was innovative and starting the band. That's why Sly got behind me so much, you know?
I know you mentioned it, but give that website again so that people know where to go and where to find out what you're doing.
Okay, it's thefamilystoneband.com. Very simple.
Yeah.
So we have an older one called the Family Stone Music, but they're intertwined. The Family Stone Band is the new one. Is
there any track that's your favorite to perform or play?
Well, we always close with "Thank You," and we get the people going. Our second one, we end with "I Want to Take You Higher," and then we come back after the audience is playing. We walk off the stage, and then we come back on and do "Thank You," and that just kicks ass every time. I'm gonna play that song till I die, man.
That track still sounds like it could have just been done today to me. I mean,
yeah,
incredible. Yes. Thank you so much for the time, for the stories, and for all the great music for so many years and keeping it going.
Yes, I could talk for 3 days on that, you know. That's why I couldn't do the thing with you earlier. I just had an operation on my throat, and I had some nodes. So I sound like a New York Italian. I'm Italian and I lived in New York, but you know.
Yeah, give you a song that you can't refuse.
You're going to buy this, you know. Pat Rizzo, he was a local New York musician, you know, when I met him. And his uncle's Jilly Rizzo, you know, at Chili's in New York in the old days. I go in, I meet one guy is Jimmy the Hook, you know, Willie the Weep. They had all these names, they're little short Italians. I'm a little short Italian. And so was Pat. They got all these tall, beautiful blondes with large extremities, you know. And it was a Jilly's in New York City. Famous place.
All right. Hey, Jerry, take good care, and I hope to see you out there on the road sometime.
Yeah, you too. And once again, I want to give thanks and prayers to close friend Pat Rizzo, a member of our band, who just passed away a week ago.
Amen.
Okay. Right.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkandstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkandstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkandstuff.net, and linking through funkandstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkandstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkandstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.